Recording in progress.
All right, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have Shelby today as their clerk. Shelby, would you please take the roll?
Absolutely. Councilmember Johnson? Here. Councilmember Richardson?
Present and enjoying the extra space.
Councilmember Crossman?
Here.
Councilmember Smith? Here. Councilmember Hess?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Kaminsky? Here. Mayor Joe DePinto?
Here, thank you. Can we get an agenda approval?
Move the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Today we have a special presentation with a Yelm Prairie Line Trail update. Cody, I believe that's you.
Good evening, council.
We're going to see if we can share.
Yep, perfect. So one thing that we have thought about in recent is Prairie Line Trail has been a big project that's been going on for years, almost 20 years now that this project has been taking place. We're going to go through some big hurdles in the next couple of months and next year. And I just wanted to get you guys caught up on how we got to where we are and what the path forward is on the trail. And if there's any questions about it, we can ask them now to try to flesh some of them out. And then as you come through in November through December, there'll be a contract for design and construction of the Prairie Line Trail, construction specifically. And then next year, there'll be a contract for accepting grant funds and then the design of the bridge and then the trail into Roy. So I just wanted to give you a timeline. So I'm going to go through this quick. Feel free to stop me as I go through it and ask questions. I condensed some of the items on here because going through a 20-year timeline is a lot. So I'll start with March 2009 was the initial opening of the Prairie Line Trail as we have it now. So from where about the Boys and Girls Club is all the way down to where it ends at the city limits is where the trail got opened in 2009. That project in 2009 was 1.2 million. About 900,000 of that was grant funded, while the city put in about 110,000 of that. So in 2009, quite a big chunk of money for that section of trail. Since 2009, the previous community development director and public works were working on what's called a NITU, which is a notice of interim trail use. So I know it might be hard to read here. The Surface Transportation Policy Board is a board that's in Washington, D.C. And if you know anything about D.C., things don't happen quickly. So this was a project that took, as you can see, 11 years to get the rest of the trail line that we owned into a NITU status, which is a trail use status. You can't just turn a railroad into a trail. Even though we own the land, we weren't allowed to turn it into a trail until we had this in place. This prevents trains from using it in the future. So that was worked at the behest of the council and administration back then to get this NITU to turn the rest of it into a trail use. That was obtained in June of 2020. So that was a long process to go. During that time, grants were sought out, but you can't take anything until you know you can turn into a trail. So in December of 2020, the previous community development director, Grant Beck, received a grant for the trail as we're using now. So the trail going from where it ends to the bridge is what he received a grant for. He attempted to get a grant for the bridge reconstruction as well. There was not enough funds in 2020 because of things happening, as you might remember, COVID specifically. They only funded part of the project. So that part of the project was accepted by council in 2020 to get the funding to do the trail up to the bridge. And at that point, once that was done, I started taking over the project. The project then needed a cultural survey. Another thing that is not very quick. So we started that in January of 2021. And then in March of 2022, we finally got the cultural survey approved. So about a year and 2 months. We had to reach out to not only the Nisquallion Indian tribe, but the Squaxin, Chehalis, and Puyallup tribe. So all those tribes have to give input, and if they have any concerns, and I understand, I know from the perspective it seems weird because we're just putting it over a rail where we're not really disturbing ground, but you still have to do a cultural survey for that. It's part of grant requirements and federal requirements to do those things. We had approval in March of 2022 from the cultural survey. That led us to start the project. Seems weird it took us this long. We still had this is a grant from 2020 we're working under. In August of 2022, if you remember last year, council, you guys, some of you approved the budget to do the trail construction this year. So that budget was approved. That's what we've been working under, is that approved construction budget for the trail, which was for the match, the 115-ish thousand to match the grant. So we started SCJ on the design work. They were the ones who had been working on the trail originally. So they continued design work on the trail to create a lookout point and go all the way to the bridge. They finished design early this month. So just about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, we finalized design. And that was with input from several different people, Nisqually Land Trust, some of the local business owners. I know Public Service Committee, we talked about the movement of the actual lookout from the water side to looking at Mount Rainier. And I believe I might have shown that picture to a couple of different people. So that was decided. We moved that lookout from the waterfront to just Mount Rainier. And here we are today. It opened for bid this morning. It'll be open for bid for just over 3 weeks. November 14th, I believe, is the closing date. November 11th will be the Veterans Day. It'll be right before then will be the closing date on this bid. And then those bids will tally, and the lowest responsible bidder will be who we will attempt to award the contract to. That contract will then, see if this works. Hey, we got it. That contract will become before council in November. So at the last meeting in November, we'll bring that contract to you, which will include not only the grant funded part, but also our match. So we're estimating the contract to be about $400,000 for this work. Bids can come in where they come in. Our grant funding was $435,000. So we have a little bit of flexibility, but not a lot. Hopefully, because it's a straight path that is just paved over, bids will come in favorable, but under this climate, I don't have any idea what's going to happen. I'm just prepping you for that. If it comes in way higher, obviously that's a conversation we'll have with council, and it'll be your decision what to do at that point. If bids come on point, still your decision at that point, but it's probably a little bit easier when you know that the money's grant funded and everything in that scenario. The grant will not adjust. The grant is what it is. So it was done on 2020 numbers, but there was some space built into it. So there could be some differences. So just be aware of that when we come in November. Well, you'll know before then, but when we come for the contract, it could be higher, lower, what we predicted. The other thing we had applied for and got just recently is a grant for the bridge. So because we knew that this whole project was originally slated to go all the way to Roy, we had an opportunity to apply for the grant for the bridge with a park foundation that council had elected to bring on board earlier this year. We did that. They helped us apply for that grant, and we were able to receive that grant, which is just over $1 million. That grant, we got the contract for that grant last month. And we haven't signed it yet, but that'll be the next phase of this project, is do the bridge. Once you build it to the bridge, we'll build a bridge. What that'll mean is in 24, during your budget time, we'll probably have to do not amendment, we'll have to do a budget for that actual project so we can do that part of it. That is slated to be completed in the middle of 25.
Cody,
Yes.
could you talk a little bit about that grant that we received and what we can only use it for?
Yeah, so it's an RCO grant, which is Recreation and Conservation Office. They are very specific grants. Most of their grants are for trail usage, fish passages, other things. The grant we specifically looked for was trail usage. The only thing the grant can be used for is, well, this project we specifically applied for, but it's for trails. So we could have looked for a trail somewhere else in Yelm, but you can't use that grant to build a road. You can't use that grant to build a dog park. That grant has to go for this trail. If we try to change the scope of it, you have to go back to the committee and ask for a whole new grant in it. So this grant is specifically for the bridge. This is the biggest hurdle we have, is that bridge is built. We think it's already been rated that it will support human weight, but we have to do some refinement and protections on it, because if right now, I don't know if you've been out there, but it's a railroad bridge. So there's ties across it, and there's 2-foot holes every step. So you have to go through and do some protections and safety concerns, put up railing for people to go through. We're also going to think ahead here, and we're going to put up some railing for horses. So you could actually walk your horse across this bridge too. So equestrians could also ride their horses across the bridge, and it'll put a little stub out towards Pierce County. And then the final section of that project would be from Pierce County to our Roy section. We own just before Roy. Then it'll be up to Pierce County at that point. We do have right now, I'll talk about stakeholder meetings and I'll go to questions. So we are having stakeholder meetings as we speak. So we started stakeholder meetings with Pierce County, the tribe, and Roy. We meet with them on a quarterly basis because they're trying to bring the trail from Tacoma to us. So there'll be a connection there. Their timeline's a little longer than ours. We're hoping to have everything complete by 2025. All the way to Roy. They're thinking about starting theirs on 2025. So we're trying to accelerate them a little bit more. And we have some ins with Roy now. So they're working a little bit faster on this, which is good. The other thing is we did start stakeholder meetings with impacted properties. So at the behest of one of our Parks Advisory Committee and it just good common sense, we wanted to talk to the property owners along the trail because they'll be impacted, right? You have now a walking path people can walk through. And they're worried about, you know, whatever he's worried about, vagrants, is whatever can happen on a now trail. The one benefit of having a trail is some of these things are already happening, right? They're already getting people camping on their sites, trying to do theft. Now there's a trail we can access. Vehicles can drive down there from us. So police can do a patrol down there with an ATV. We can do a patrol down there with an ATV. So there'll be more oversight. And I believe, and they're on agreement with this, that safety will increase because we're able to readily go down there and look at these properties and look at these sites. Whereas before with a rail, we can't drive a vehicle down there, but people can still walk down that. So in those stakeholder meetings are Nisqually Pines Community Club, GG Bar, or there's a GG Bar Ranch. Yeah. The ranch right there, Ann Warman, who's on our park planning commission. She also owns a property right along that, and Nisqually Land Trust, who owns a big chunk of property that goes along that. And they're excited about the opportunity to have the trail lead into the land trust, which is really good. So those meetings are happening. And then I just kind of I won't talk about the rest, but this is for what we're going to do in the future for the bridge part of it. Be happy to answer a question. I know it was kind of a in-your-face quick stuff, but it's been something going on for a while.
Councilmember Smith.
Just quickly, these grants, so the 435,000 and $1 million, what's the timeline on those? Is there a, you know what I mean? Do we have to use them by a specific date? I understand there.
Yes. So the 2020 grant we received, we were supposed to use by 2022. We filed an extension because a cultural survey took so long. We have to use that now by June of 24. So if we don't use it by June of 24, it goes back in the pot and goes to someone else.
Thank you.
The bridge grant is till June of 2025. We could always file an extension if we'll have to do another cultural survey on the bridge, which seems really weird. It's there, but it's something you have to do. So that could take more time. So they're always willing, if you're continuing to make progress and if your council and administration's on board, they will grant you extensions if you need them.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Richardson.
Being that these trails will eventually be connected to Tacoma, right? And then also you said that you can drive ATVs, UTVs, whatever. How much more will these trails, if capable, can we divert Seattle to Portland?
The whole idea would be Seattle Portland would be on this trail and off 507, which if you've been here and in Yelm any amount of time, that is the #1 accident spot, is right around the McKenna Bridge. That there's no bike lane, so they get hit. This would be able to prevent that from happening and would open up new opportunities, right? You can literally, I don't know how many, you can literally get on your bike and ride to Tacoma if you wanted to, or ride into Spanaway or ride into Roy, and that's a cool thought.
Councilmember Hess.
And it's just so that there's an understanding of why this is happening in the big picture. Because if you look at the state of Washington as a whole, there's this whole trail, these trails, and it's former railroads. If I remember correct, the reason why they went to this, especially at the national level, is that these railroads are no longer in use, but it still leaves the right of way in case there needs to be a future use. So that is still a possibility that if whatever reason somebody higher up, another municipality higher up than us, can all of a sudden, they can say, hey, we want this right of way back because railroad is coming through. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So on to the first part of that question, the NITU, the Notice of Interim Trail Use, locks it in as a trail. You won't be able to convert it back to a rail at that point. So we had to go through a process of abandoning the rail line, which took a long time. That was 11 years to abandon the rail line. And then we had to go through another process to turn it into an interim trail use. And so now we're locked in, nothing can come back. And the reason you have to go that way is because what you were saying, if nothing is done with that, if you don't abandon it or turn it into a trail, it reverts back to the property owners. So the property owners would get that right away back down the middle of the road or down the middle of the rail line, in X amount of years if nothing is done to that. So they had to go through the process of those things to ensure that that right of way didn't go back to those property owners.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Oh, yeah, isn't this the trail part, Cody, that there was something about the police being able to access for emergencies between here and Roy, that they could use the road?
Yeah, so in theory, and I don't want to, like, if something, the trestle is extremely high. Have you been to the trestle or jumped off it as a kid? Not that I ever did that. It's extremely high, whereas the bridge in McKenna is a lot lower. So if there was a big flood or something that wiped out the bridge in McKenna, this could be used as an emergency access. Obviously, we can't use like semi trucks and stuff, but if someone needed a, police car or someone in a light vehicle needed to go, that could happen. It's not going to be rated for a semi truck, but yes, an emergency that could happen. The other thought was recently there was an issue with someone getting lost on the Squally River. Or at least they believe someone was lost. The police had to respond. They had to go to Anne's house and pull up on her because she was the only place they could access the beachfront. This would give you ability to drive down the trail with, a police car or something and get to emergency services there instead of having to go to someone's house. So you are right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone from the public? Nobody? Is that about it?
That's all I got for you. I just wanted to show you a quick picture of so here's where the trail ends right now. I know it's kind of hard to see. You can see the Squally Pines office. This yellow highlight is where the trail will eventually go to just the edge of Roy.
Councilmember Crossman, did you have any questions too? All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Cody. All right, moving on. We will go on to public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
None.
If anyone wishes to address the council, please come on up. We can have you fill out a blue card a little bit later, but please come on up. Anyone online?
No hands are raised.
All right. Moving on. We have a consent agenda to approve. We have the September 26th and October 3rd meeting minutes, the July 2023 check register and position summary, and the August 2023 check register and position summary. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second by Councilmember Johnstone. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to new business. We have ordinance 1105, the 2024 ad valorem tax public hearing. I do have to officially open this up. Public hearing at 6:16. This public hearing will proceed in orderly fashion. I'd like to ask for cooperation in the following procedure. Everyone will be given an opportunity to be heard. If you're online and you would like to comment, please raise your hand. I will call on you when it's your turn to speak. Start by stating your name and address for the record. And the purpose of the hearing is for the council to receive input from the public on the 2024 ad valorem property tax. There will be another public hearing on October 24th, 2023. And have the staff report, please. Stephanie.
Great, thank you, Mayor and council members. So within this ordinance, the preliminary numbers that we've received from Thurston County would, the prior year levy was $1,624,000. We are not recommending to take the 1% increase. As you can see in the packet, we do have an addition to the levy of $71,872, and that is from new properties coming on to the tax roll. And then I just had an email today. It's not in here because I just got it today. There is a refund amount of just under $11,000 that will be added to this. And so it looks like the total property tax levy for 2024 will just be over $1.7 million. So what the process is that we have 2 public hearings which we're required to do. We do need to pass the actual ordinance no later than December 1st. So we're not asking to pass this tonight because we do not have final numbers from Thurston County. So we will be bringing this back to you. But I'd be happy to answer any questions about the numbers tonight.
All right, and then we also have, if there's any public testimony, if anyone from public wishes to testify on this, please do so now. If there's anyone online that wishes to testify, please do so now. All right, there is none. So let's go ahead and no questions from council either. Close it. Councilmember Hess.
Wait for you to close it.
All right, let's close the public hearing at 6:19. And Councilmember Hess.
Yes, I have a few questions for Ms. Nanovich, our finance director, in reference to revenues and funds. And the reason why I have these questions is when I ran, I wanted to bring transparency to the community members. Exactly how funds are generated and how they are spent. And there seems to be a lot of confusion out there right now in reference to that. Questions such as, why are we spending money on a dog park when we need road? Why are we spending money on a stage when we need something? Why are we doing these various things? And so I want to try to bring some clarity and transparency on this. So my first question for you, Ms. Nanovich, speaking of revenue, if I remember correct from the study session, you said our revenue comes from 8 sources: property tax, retail sales tax, utility tax, criminal justice tax, B&O tax, license and permits, intergovernmental, and charges for services. Is that correct?
There's also some miscellaneous revenues. They're nominal. And then did you include fines and penalties in there?
No, I did not. Do all these revenues that are collected, do they all go into the general fund?
So there's those categories of revenues in the general fund, but we also have taxes that go into like the REIT tax goes into the capital funds. The motor vehicle excise tax goes into the street fund. So there are other taxes and other revenues that do go into other funds, but they're for specific uses. But those categories, all those categories are included in the general fund. Yes.
And then do we pull money out of the general fund into other specific funds? Or once it goes into the general fund, it stays in the general fund?
So council can take action to transfer money from the general fund to another fund. So for instance, every year we transfer money into the street fund to support the street operations. Every year we transfer money from the general fund to the debt funds to pay for some of our debt service that's under the obligation of the general government. But the general fund does not support the utility funds. We do not make transfers into the utility funds. The utility funds generate their own revenues by rates.
And so when you're talking about the utility funds, you're talking about the water and sewer and stormwater. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then in that reference there, when we raise water rates or sewer rates or stormwater rates, that's not so that, as has been stated before by some community members as well as others out there, that this is just for us to get more money for the general fund to spend on parks or something like that. That money is because the water reclamation facility needs some kind of repair done to it, or a water main needs repair done to it, or we're expanding in that realm. Is that correct?
So the rates support the operations and the infrastructure of those utilities. That being said, there are taxes on utilities that go into the general fund as well as taxes that go to the state.
And then just in reference to taxes, because if I remember correct from your wonderful chart that you provided during the study session, our 2 biggest revenue generators are property tax and retail sales tax. Is that correct?
In the general fund, yes.
And then property tax, everybody knows that is it's collected by the state or the county and then distributed according to where it is located. Levy rates. Okay. In addition, the retail sales tax. That
Mr.
is.
Mayor, can I call a point of order?
State your point.
Is this appropriate use of the agenda? How many questions does Councilmember Hess have? Is this the right time for this? Seems a little odd to me. So I didn't know. I think point of order might be.
As your point is heard, I am going to give some lenience. It is relevant to, I believe, the discussion on that ad valorem tax and how we get there. It is a little long-winded for your question.
And it also associates with what was specially presented to us today.
Sure, please continue.
So the retail sales tax, my question in reference to that is we have a set rate that was within the city limits, correct? And part of that is state, county, and then city. If somebody is coming into our community spending money, we get the benefit of that. Is that correct?
So if you go to Walmart and you spend money at Walmart, we will get sales tax from those sales.
And then if somebody were to just order from Amazon or some online, because a lot of the industry of commercial businesses have gone towards a lot more no longer retail brick and mortar, but now a lot of online. Do we get all that wonderful property tax if they live in, as we've heard in the past, the city of Yelm 98597?
So Washington State is a destination-based sales tax state. So if you live within the city of Yelm and you order something online and it's delivered to your address within the city of Yelm, the city will receive those sales tax. If you live outside of city limits and it's delivered outside of city limits, it'll go to whatever jurisdiction that is, whether it's the county or a different city.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, because when we're talking about revenue, we also have funds. And I know this is not your specialty, so I'm going to ask Director Colt to.
Could you please keep it related to the ad valorem tax discussion?
Well, not only ad valorem, but we closed that and I waited for a specific reason for that to be closed because I now want to go into, as I said, when I ran for transparency, communication to the community members, and making sure that they understand what's going on. And within the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of misinformation that's going on out there. Sure. I want to try to clarify that from our subject matter experts. I want to get it from our staff that we depend upon to help advise us and help us put together a budget. So the community members need to.
So as the council, we did close the public hearing, there is still council deliberations and discussion.
Okay.
And so it must be relevant to this. If you do wish to go ahead and talk about your campaign promise or whatnot, you can go ahead and do that in the council member reports.
Not a problem. I will gladly wait for my time.
Is there any other further questions, comments from the council? All right, we are moving on then. Thank you, Stephanie. Moving on to old business. We don't have any scheduled. Moving on to standing council committee reports. Public Safety Committee.
Okay, we did meet, and Chief Carlson spoke about the public safety tax that will be coming up on the ballot and how that will really benefit law enforcement all over, and it will definitely benefit law enforcement here in Yelm. He discussed the ability they might take place in something called the ABLE training through Georgetown University. It's a program that helps officers intervene with each other if they see something that might not be going well. It's to protect their mental and physical health, or well-being, I should say, not health. There's going to be an emergency preparedness presentation October 26th at the library from 4:30 to 5:30. And if you want to get your passport, don't try to get it in December because they're taking December off again to get caught up on a bunch of stuff that they have been putting off all year. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Public Services Committee.
Yes. Public Services Committee. I would like to discuss the projects that you've brought to the community's attention, and Director Colt, I need his assistance in reference to this.
Is this in relation to the Public Services Committee?
Yes, Public Services Committee.
These continue.
These are very important things. Again, lots of misinformation going on out there about how we are spending our money and our funds. And so, Director Colt, I would like you to please help me clarify some of this misinformation that's going on out there. The biggest one, and I'll start with it, is everybody has a problem with the roads. Everybody has a problem with the traffic. We've heard that for years, ever since who knows when. My big question I have is, because they always say we need to fix our infrastructure, you being the Director of Public Services and Public Works, you work on our roads. Can we widen 510 and 507?
Not without WASDOT approval.
So it's WASDOT that is.
I'm sorry, Councilman, this is not, please,
No, please. This is a council meeting and the council is having the meeting. You can,
I am still the chair of the,
I understand you're the chair. I understand you're the chair.
we will respect
I'm
the,
respecting that, but I'm also asking you to respect us as the council to try to clarify misinformation that is being spread throughout the community by candidates, council members, former and current. And I want,
you're more than welcome to do this. This portion is to review what's going on in the public service.
and that's what I'm reviewing. I am reviewing.
Councilor Crossman, is this what was discussed in the council or the committee?
No, I agree, Mr. Mayor, that Councilmember Hess is out of turn. This is not, with, you look at our book, our manual of how to run council meetings, this is not appropriate behavior. It's not appropriate time for claiming misinformation in the public and trying to clarify. I mean, a lot of this stuff is online. People can join and see this stuff. There's a time and place for it. This is not it.
Thank you, Councilmember Crossman. I'm just trying to clarify, this is what we're speaking about in the Public Service Committee. You're more than welcome to speak on what you want to speak. And as I said, during your council member reports, we will have Councilmember Cole, we'll have Director Cole go ahead and answer your questions to that point. But at this point, please refer to the Public Service Committee and what happened in that.
Okay, well, I already gave that report at the last meeting.
All righty. Thank you very much. Finance Committee.
Yeah, I had a wonderful finance committee with Stephanie, meeting there, and we went over the check registry. You know, there's always interesting to see where things go and things are paid for. And also, if you're curious to see what the local city tax is, you can always check on your receipt from Walmart. It's listed on there. And also, when you buy things on Amazon, it'll show that it's listed on there as well. So I didn't know that, and I went to Walmart, spent $100 in the bag, and broke my heart. So anyways, thank you for Stephanie for doing your fine work at finances, and it's good there. There's a lot of transparency there, and I feel like there is, and also that's always listed on the site. If anybody wants to take a look at those things, it's all there. So
Thank you. All right, moving on to Mayor Sinister staff reports. Todd, would you like to?
Todd tonight, okay. Mayor, council, just a couple updates. The property at 507 103rd will close on the 16th. So we have a date on that finally, so that'll be good. We have a 100-year celebration committee meeting that'll take place on Thursday. So we're excited to get the group. I believe there's 10 or 11 members on that. So we're excited to get that going and start planning for that. We had our first meeting this morning with our labor attorney to discuss our upcoming union negotiations that will take place next year. We have 3 unions that will all be negotiated their contracts next year. So we're trying to get a head start on that so we can wrap those up as early as possible next year. We have our audit entrance conference tomorrow at 10:30. Again, this is not an exit conference. This is an entrance conference on what they will be looking at. I know everyone got an email on that if you wanted to participate in that. Interviews for positions, probation officer and public defender. Those are the only 2 positions we're currently still recruiting and interviewing for, which is fantastic. And other than that, just attended the chamber forum today, and I believe there were 17 candidates that all took part in that for school board, county commissioner, port commission, city council. And I just wanted to say it was pretty impressive that there were 17 candidates there taking part in that, which is pretty amazing. So it was just nice to see that much interest in elected office. So anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you, Todd. We will be discussing a resolution next week, as some of you have been reached out to by Sheriff Sanders asking for support of the public safety tax. It will be up as a resolution. Council will deliberate on it and discuss it, and at that point, they can either decide whether to support or not support it. This Saturday, we have the Mayor's Cup. It's the Mario Kart tournament. It's an esports tournament here at the community center. Signups are still ongoing, but they are going to be shut off tomorrow. So if you want to have your chance to be the best in Yelm at Mario Kart, please sign up for that tomorrow. It's a $20 fee, and half the proceeds are going to the local Boys and Girls Club, the Yelm branch. there was a meeting that Rep. Barkus called for that we held yesterday at our Public Services Building. It included Thurston County, Pierce County, WASDOT, as well as Yelm staff members, including Cody Cold is our director. And we discussed the roundabouts that will be coming in. The one that Yelm is responsible for is at Five Corners, right by Arco. We are well prepped and ready to go. It seems like we're a little bit further ahead than Pierce County and Thurston County on it. They still have a few concerns, mainly around the monetary amount that was awarded. But Rep. Barkus is trying to move that forward and try to accommodate everyone, make sure that we can have quicker access and we can not have to sit in traffic as long here in Yelm. So just reiterate the importance of that. There will also be another roundabout at Walmart too, but that's a separate one. That's with the Yelm bypass, which we are still continuing on those discussions. Going to a Mayor's Exchange in Leavenworth this Thursday after the our meeting here for the 100-year celebration. And other than that, there's a quarterly business roundtable next week. To let the chamber know, we'll be publishing it on social media. And I have been going directly to businesses, inviting them to that meeting. Just want to get input from business owners and management on how the city can help them better. And if there's some hindrance for them to do their business, conduct their business, the city's at fault, or we can take some criticism and see what we can do better for them. So that'll be next Wednesday. Just double check on that. It's the 18th at 6 p.m. and that's at the Yelm Community Center. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Let's start with councilmember reports. Excuse me, Councilmember Brooks. I'm sorry. Thank you.
May I ask you a follow-up question about your talk with Barkus?
Sure.
During that, was there a specific ask for Yelm that he needs to follow up with?
Not so much for us. Again, it was more to make sure that we're all on the same page, the 3 different jurisdictions, as these are major projects that originally were WASDOT projects. This is among the first that where WASDOT has given money, awarded money for one of their projects to a local jurisdiction. And if successful, we are on time, we believe we do it under budget. And moving forward, it could be set precedent for other cities and communities around Washington State.
Thank you.
Kind of like a pilot program almost.
That's great. Do you think that since this is a pilot program that there will be more standing meetings with all those involved?
Yeah, there's going to be more meetings. Don't know his Rep. Barks' office.
He hasn't followed up yet, but he will.
Yeah, we just had the meeting yesterday, so it will likely be within probably a month or so. I'm sure the 3 jurisdictions will come again. 4 with the WASDOT. But yeah, it's moving forward, and it was good to have all the players involved all at the same table in person, and it was great that we could host it. So, anything you want to add to that, Cody?
Just TRPC was also there.
Oh, thank you.
So that was nice to have them kind of frequent planning planner. No, but everything else he said was perfect.
All right, let's start off with councilmember reports. Councilmember Johnstone.
I don't have much of a report. I attended the town hall with Sheriff Sanders last week. Thought it was really great. Not a huge turnout at the Yelm one, hoping the other ones generate more of a turnout, because I think it's awesome that he's doing that.
Absolutely. Councilmember Richardson.
Well, I attended a SWAC meeting. There's always so much information in those. I'm not saying that I'm not interested, but there are some things that they're working on as far as finding a location for a new South Transfer Station. I remember the 2 of them, but one of them was the old Rainier one and then the Military Road one. So there's some work that they're trying to do to have something, more down south for a transfer station for SWAC. I'm passionate about solid waste. Advisory Committee. Also, attended the forum today, and that was fantastic. Good job with the chamber, and thank you to the director, Amanda, for organizing that along with the president-elect Tracy Cho. They did a wonderful job, and the Sheriff Sanders was there to mediate, which you always need the sheriff there to mediate and keep things in order. So that was fun and enjoyable. And Masonry Cafe did a wonderful job of catering And so I just enjoy those types of things, and then can't wait to go to sleep tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Crossman.
Nothing tonight.
All righty. See what's out there.
Can you see me? Yeah, I got a long commute, so I have a long commute.
Councilmember Smith.
All I have is I also attended the town hall, which I thought was really good. I would have liked to have seen more people out there, but it was very informative.
Good. Councilmember Hess.
Yes. Want to get back to the projects and how they're funded and where we stand on them. So thank you, Director Cole, for sticking around for this. As you've already stated, 510, 507, and the 510 loop, we can't do anything. Even if we had $10 million, $20 million in our coffers, we could not go out there right now and do any kind of improvements, correct?
Not without their
Not without their approval, and it's supposed to be WashDOT that is supposed to be maintaining and taking care of those.
Correct.
So we're held at their leisure of when they want to get a project done.
Correct.
Okay. The variety of projects that Public Service is working on, one of them is the dog park, which we got a grant for. It's a 700,000. We are out of our funds is 100,000. The fund that came from, where did that fund come from?
That's Municipal Building Fund, Fund 302.
Fund 302. Can we use that fund to build sidewalks, to correct streets, to do anything like that to alleviate traffic?
No.
The traffic count project that's coming up, that is just to see how we're doing on traffic, where traffic is flowing. It's basically doing a big study for the city. Is that correct?
Correct. We do biannual traffic counts in the city. So every other year we do traffic counts at all the entrances, exits to the city. We move them around to just get how much traffic is flowing through the city.
Okay, and those are all along the main corridors.
Right.
It's not going into the side streets or anything else like that.
We do some side streets. So we've done Collins before off of where the bypass comes. We've done Walmart Boulevard off of where 507 comes. So we have done them on side streets, but most time we focus on the three main inlets in town. But we do try to get some side streets now and then.
Okay, and the funding for that, is that a general fund or is that a
316 road streets?
road streets fund?
Correct.
Okay. And then we have two pavement projects going on, pavement evaluation and management and the annual pavement preservation. Those are to make sure that our roads that we are responsible for, the ones that we own, that potholes are taken care of, they are in working order. Is that correct? And those the funding for those also come out of the street fund, correct?
316 as well.
Okay. We already covered the 510, the roundabout, which I'm very happy to hear about. And as the mayor kindly put out, this is a one-time trial to see how well it does of WashDOT giving the funding and giving control to the local municipality. Is that correct?
Correct.
We couldn't use that fund to do anything else. It's only for the Bald Hills, Five Corners roundabout. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's very specific for their roundabout only.
Okay. We're also, another project that's coming up is the Washington and McKenzie couplets. That's these two roads. And if I remember correct, that's turning them into one-way streets.
Correct.
And the funding for that is the streets.
316 road streets.
And the reason why we're looking at turning those into one-way is to find out how that will, those are the two test ones to find out if we change streets into one-way, will it help alleviate traffic and get the flow of traffic a lot better? Is that one of the
Partially, the other part is it's our core where most of our events happen. So to create more parking and get better flow during those events, that's why it was looked at. It was also in our vision plan, in our downtown corridor study that council approved in 2019. I might be off on that day, but I'm pretty sure 2019, the corridor study was complete that talked about those as being like the main focus, the biggest bang for your buck projects to do in the city.
Okay. And then we have the activated alleyway, which is the wonderful walkway here of taking that from being a actual road to making it a walkway so that we can have a walkable downtown where the businesses that are up next to it are able to take advantage of it to put seating and various things like that. Is that correct?
Correct. Seating, lighting, and then outdoor, dining experience for whatever those businesses are. That's correct.
And that activated alleyway, is that also street funds?
That is correct.
We have a parking lot that we're going to be building. What fund does that one come from? 316 as well. And the parking lot, if I remember correct from the briefings and the various meetings that we've had about it, is that is going to help the businesses in the downtown corridor because now they don't have to, when development occurs, they don't have to say for our business, we have to have 3 parking spots or however many, because now they can point to the common area and say, that's our parking. Is that correct?
Correct. Our central business district has a caveat code that if someone can't provide parking at their business, they have to have off-street parking or on-street parking somewhere. This would qualify for that. So say a large business wanted to come in by the Crow Law Office and they couldn't get parking because they have to get rid of it. This parking lot is close enough in range. They could use that to offset their impacts and they could build their business theoretically.
And this parking lot could also assist the current businesses that have on-street parking, where we can, in the future, if necessary, actually say no more on-street parking, just delivery, because that can become the parking lot for them. Is that something, I mean, it's not the plan at this time, but that could be something that could be done in the future.
Yeah, the reason for the parking lot, as my understanding from council, is that we wanted to alleviate the parking issues that a lot of these businesses had. So that's why it was driven forward by the council and mayor. Yes.
Water main improvements. Those are always wonderful things and necessary. What fund does those come from?
404, that's Water Capital Improvements Fund.
And is that one built up every time we pay our water bill? Or
no? So that fund is built up from development charges. So when a new house, new business comes in, they pay a system development charge. Okay. That fund goes there. The water capital is subsidized by the 401, which is a municipal water. So if when we do have rates, there's always a little bit extra in there to help with some of these projects that need to be done. So that money is transferred from the municipal water fund to the water capital fund if the project's needed.
And so this is, once again, helping with the infrastructure to make sure that when we have new houses, new residents, we've got a working infrastructure for the safety of the community.
Yeah, correct. It's up. Normally the water improvement specifically is like upsizing pipe, taking out old asbestos cement pipe and putting in PVC pipe to allow better flows, higher capacity.
Cochran Park Cochran Park multi-use path. That is continuing to improve that park, and that funding for that is from
412. So Cochran Park's a weird animal. It's a sewer outfall facility. So it's paid for out of the sewer capital fund and sewer utility fund. So you get money from both of those that pay for Cochran Park. Whereas a normal park, you wouldn't be able to do that. Since Cochran is an outfall, we can use money from the sewer capital 413 and 412, the sewer utility fund.
The Prairie Lane Trail, which you talked about, phase 2, the funding for that is coming out of
302. That's the municipal building fund.
And if I remember correct, the 302 fund, that is funded when a house is sold. There's a small little fee to help make sure that we as a community are developing green space, recreational space for community members that are moving into our community. Is that correct?
Correct. The REIT, that's what REIT money goes for, yes.
And so that money can't be used to help alleviate streets or anything else like that?
No.
Second Street sidewalk going, and this I know is a very important thing to Councilmember Crossman, sidewalks, getting it so we have better walkability, being able to get it so that community members can walk from their house to schools, walk from their house to parks, things like that. With that one, the funding for that one is?
316, that's road and street fund again.
Road and street fund.
Sidewalk on Main Street.
We have the Veterans Memorial, which we have been working on for many, many years. And it's, we finally got a design from the St. Martin's, correct? Is it St. Martin's?
We had a design for St. Martin's to put it in City Park. We haven't moved forward with that design because council hasn't given us direction. Right now, you've been looking at a new property that we might purchase for it or a different location for Veterans Memorial. So we have not gone any farther than having the design from.
And the funds for that, when it comes time for it, the funds for that will be out of the funding fund. Okay. The City Park stage, very big project. That one is funded out of
302 as well.
302 as well. Okay. With all these, and I'm just going to pause for a moment. All these that are coming out of 302, are we draining that fund to almost zero, or do we have a pretty good reserve in there?
So there's a slight reserve in there, but the idea with the municipal building fund is you build up for projects in your plan. So we have a parks comp plan or a parks plan, which tells us what kind of things we need to build park-wise. Veterans Memorial Dog Park was on there, stage was on there. You should be funding those projects. You shouldn't build a giant reserve to just sit there because that money is supposed to be actively used to build amenities for your public. So you should try to use that fund as it comes available to build your projects.
We've been pretty, as I said, through the discussions of public service committee meetings, we've been very good about providing amenities for our community to make it so it is a place that people want to move to and people want to recreate in. Is that correct?
I believe so. And I mean, it's council's prerogative to spend that money on those kind of things. So yes, I would believe council has done a good job of building amenities. So thank you for that.
The southeast reservoir, that's over by Walmart. And that one is because we've got more water rights and we need to be able to have that storage. Is that correct?
Correct. Storage and fire flow.
And that fund is
Water capital for what?
so that large project, we couldn't go, hey, okay. The water main improvements, we've already covered that with some of the other ones there. Vehicle storage building. That one, I know it's important because we have rain, snow, we buy vehicles, we want to make sure they're maintained and stored correctly. Where's the funding for that
That
one?
one's out of the water capital as well.
Out of the water capital as well. The water reclamation facility upgrade, phase 2, which I'm going to say kudos to you for how well you have managed that. The grants that you've gotten, the fact that we have not had to raise our sewer rates to fix that project, which has been deteriorating since probably, I think, 2010 or even since that time frame. I mean, when you took over, we were still running Windows 95.
I don't know about that, but
Okay. Well, so that one there, those funds, majority of it came from grants, correct?
so no, we have a large loan for that. It's that small interest 1.25% loan that some of you are on council and approved. And a lot of those grants came from lead lobbying that the mayor did and several other people did to get like the centrifuge grant, the biodryer grant. So kudos to them and the sewer plant people for managing the sewer as it is. I've had very little to do with that project. Everybody's kind of council had the idea to go with the biodryer early on. That's great that we've saved money and started this project early. So kudos to everyone else.
And then the last project that was mentioned by the mayor, Cochran Park Improvements, phase 2. Again, that is a strange beast of how it gets funded.
Yes, it's funded out of sewer capital because it is an outfall. Its primary source is a sewer outfall. So it's funded with sewer capital money.
So with all these projects, majority of them, the money, we could not take any of that money and build road or anything else like that. Is that correct?
The only one is the road and street. So, if council obligated the funds instead of the one-way couplets that you guys budgeted and you obligated to build a different road, you could do that. But that's the only money that could be swapped one way or the other is that.
And your department is actively working on, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you're working on looking at future one-way streets to find out if that will help alleviate traffic. A good example is this road right here, people taking it out towards 507 and then wanting to make a left turn holds up traffic because you just can't get out and that kind of a situation. Am I correct that your department is looking at how to alleviate traffic and looking at one-way streets, our current streets, and how we can make better use of them? Is that correct?
We are always doing that. And Public Service Committee as well, we bring ideas to you guys and you guys prioritize what you want to do. The big one we have coming that the last committee and the current administration wanted was Roten Road. So Roten Road, we have design funding for in 2025. It's not on the project list because we haven't started yet, but that'll hook Roten Road directly into the bypass, which will probably be the #1 place. Right now, everybody gets off on Collins.
As well as add sidewalks.
Yeah. It'll add sidewalks to the dog park from the trail. So we're always trying to be a step ahead of the game and look at projects that we can do in the future. So that's 2025 money we've already got allocated. We have a grant for that. And then we're already looking for money to build that road through grant funding. That's something we will always do. And I know several council members at times have sent me like, hey, here's a grant for T-Mobile. Here's a grant for this. And we take those things and you guys do and we apply for them. The mayor's always looking for legislative funding and has secured a lot for us and legislative money. Barkus has been great. So just all of those things going, everyone looking out for those things are what help us build these projects.
And I will say kudos from the way you've responded. And if any council member wants to say it's incorrect, what I'm about to say, you've been doing a good job managing and presenting and advising us as a council on what's available, the best way to go about spending that money, and to make sure that our infrastructure of our city continues to improve as we continue to develop. Is that correct?
We try. So I work at the rule of the mayor and the council, and what you guys decide to do is what we try to do our best at. So if you budget it, if you want us to do it, we'll work towards that goal and try to help you get there. Okay, sorry.
No, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the time. And hopefully this can help clear up some of the misinformation that's going on out there of the fact that we are ignoring infrastructure. We're not, as Director Colt has put it, we are staying on top of it. Our infrastructure that we're responsible for. Traffic, I know that's a big issue, but we can't do anything about it because we're held at the mercy of WashDOT. And so to have people say that we aren't funding it correctly or doing something correctly about that, we're not prioritizing it. I'm hoping that this conversation has cleared that up, that our funds, one, we don't have it, and two, we're at the mercy of WashDOT for that. So I appreciate the time and thank you very much. And hopefully community members will pay attention and understand where we are and what we've been doing.
Councilmember Hess, and yes, I would agree that Cody and his team over at Public Services do a great job for the city of Yelm and are great stewards of our money that the council directs them to do. Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you. Another subject we're not ignoring in our city is homelessness. I chaired the homelessness committee today, in which we prioritized immediate needs of the city and recommendations. So next we will be looking at our resource list for what we have inside the city and outside, and updating what was left for us from the homelessness task force in 2019, because a lot has changed. That was just today. And then last week I was at the Sheriff Town Hall as well. The public safety meeting, there were some we don't always mention the numbers that are given in the staff reports, but I think it's important to note that in the month of August, domestic violence calls are up. And that happens a lot during the summertime and holidays. So look out for your friends and family, your neighbors, and be a good neighbor. I think we all can tell when someone's in distress. Next was coffee with a cop. No one mentioned that. I went to that, and so did Atkins, and of course, a police chief, where constituents were actually asking really good questions. They were absolutely interested in everything that the police chief had to say. It's like he was a celebrity, just like, the sheriff, because whenever we see the sheriff, we get excited about him too. On that subject, there was a Thurston County opioid response team, for which I am representing Yelm in part with the mayor and Johnstone until she leaves us.
I just attended the meeting. I don't you actually represent.
Oh, I represent it. I've got a busy couple weeks ahead of me, so I'll have more to report next time.
Councilmember Hess.
For Councilmember Brooks, and it's just because of being on the housing committee for the housing regional housing committee. Do you guys know about the new hotel, the new facility that that it was originally funded to take people from the freeway and other areas, but there's also space that if we need it, because we have, if I remember correctly, we have a no camping law. The only way we can enforce the no camping law is we have to have housing to offer. Is your committee aware of that and tracking that?
We are still developing a service list. I am aware of which facility you're speaking of, and if I may talk about my experience working with homelessness in the city, they are not prioritizing Yelm at all. We're not even, our homeless cannot get on that list, cannot get through those doors, because there are so many residents of Olympia and Lacey that they put first. They put first their own, like we should ours.
Okay, no, and thank you for letting me know that. So when I sit in the next meeting, I'll make sure I bring that up.
Yeah, there were actually 2 citizens of Yelm that thought that they could get in that hotel. So they went on the side of the freeway to live for a few weeks. They got the number so that they could be in that place. But then they said, oh, you haven't been here long enough. This person, one of them, has been homeless for 5+ years, but because they had only been at that area for X amount of time, they don't get anything.
Okay. Well, no,
Gotta take care of our own.
I'll reach out and see what we can do. Thank you.
I appreciate that connection. How about you?
Councilmember Kaminsky.
I'm in between meetings, so I have no updates.
All righty. Well, thank you very much. There is no executive session scheduled, and there's nothing More, Councilmember Smith.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Was funny to watch this so dark.
It's so dark in there.
It almost.
I have the